Hello, everyone, and welcome to our October Virtual Publisher Tips and Tricks training webinar. My name is Herb Randall with Blanchard Systems, and I will be taking you through several topics, which we hope you'll find interesting today in our session. We are going to talk about clipboard management. It's one of those things that you don't often think about, but there's some features that you might not have seen there, a couple new things. And then the rest of the session, we're going to be talking about various ways of dealing with your page count in the book plan. So moving pages, adding, removing, and various ways that you can go about doing that. We thought that would be an interesting topic to address because it's one of those things that you may be afraid to do some of those options, and this is a way we can just set up a test and play around with it and not worry about harming anything, and hopefully give you a better understanding of how those all work together. So we'll talk about shifting pages, adding and removing pages, and then doing the same thing by injecting and removing signatures. A little housekeeping, just about GoToWebinar. There's a Zoom button in the upper left of the screen, which you can use to cover the full screen of your display. Questions can be typed into the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll answer those in turn at the end. And without further ado, let's get into our demo. Now I'm logged in as a publisher to Virtual Publisher, and I'm in a demo plan that I have set up. It's very basic, and it's only 20 pages, so it's something I've started playing around with, and I've added some pages, and I have some things that we'll place on the plan, and we'll see if we can break it by adding and removing some pages. So let's first, though, talk about the clipboard. Now, the clipboard is something that it's over here on the side by default, and it's perfectly usable as it is. In fact, we often see that people don't really go in and configure it much, but there are things that you can do with it here. And one common thing that happens is we might get an answer, a question in support that, hey, where did my clipboard go? And it's easy to overlook this little icon over here. And it's a show hide clipboard. So if your clipboard isn't appearing, it's simply been hidden by maybe you accidentally hit that button or something. So show and hide is the quick way to turn that on and off. Now the other display thing that is very commonly done is you may want to position that at the bottom. And that's really helpful if you really make use of the columns of data. So we'll get to that in a moment, but let's go ahead and put that down at the bottom. So simply click this little disclosure triangle here and pin clipboard to bottom. And you'll see that you automatically get expanded a whole lot more info down here. Now that info is actually there in the other view as well. It's just you have to scroll a lot more to get to it. But this is something that you can sort by each of these, and you can customize this as well. You can also do a quick search here. Now that's in either of the modes. Just keep in mind that if you do pin the clipboard to the bottom, the toolbar stuff goes along with it. So all your controls are down there. It's all kind of one unit. So let's pin it back to the right because that again is the default view, and it might be a little easier for you to see the various options. And then we'll pin it to the bottom again in a moment. Okay, you'll notice that there are 3 tabs across the top of our clipboard. The first and default view is ads, and this will show ads and reservations. We've got an editorial tab, so all of our stories will appear here. And then also snippets, which we've talked about in previous webinars. So those are just a kind of a temporary holding bin when you want to grab a selection of files, drag them to the clipboard, and then maybe position them maybe much later or on a different page of your plan. Well, let's come back to ads. And there are different columns here that can be configured. So in order to do that, what we do is click this little triangle here. And this is common throughout the application. Many of our table views have that little triangle, which will allow you to both turn off and on the various fields as well as reorder them. So if you want to show the brand, but maybe you're not interested in the size, maybe you want to move the product up or brand, exchange those, just simply click and move it. So it may not be obvious to you that it can be moved, but it can be, and it does tell you that at the top of this drag to reorder. Okay, so you can see that there are quite a few things here, and materials ID is a common one that you might want to see. There's some bits of metadata, a folio, a proposed folio, and an external position. All of these are metadata that perhaps integrate with another system that you're using in conjunction with SendMyAd and Virtual Publisher. Those can all be displayed. So you can turn those on and off as you wish, and those will appear in our clipboard. Now, as I said before, pinning that to the bottom is perhaps your best view if you are really utilizing a lot of this data. Now, I've got a lot of fields on here, and you may not need to show those. And in fact, I'd recommend that you turn off the ones that you don't use, both just from the standpoint of trying to keep your interface clean, but also just in trying to redraw that every time you click on the clipboard or the plan refreshes. So it may speed things up slightly for you, and just kind of reduce what your eyes have to focus on during this a session with Virtual Publisher. Okay, so a lot of information here, and you may find that you really would like to have that locally. So if you look in our little triangle here down at the bottom where we pin the clipboard to the right or to the bottom, there's a download clipboard. And this is really, in fact, in a development version coming soon, I believe that actually says a clipboard report. And that's really what this is. You'll notice the name of this. It's Clipboard Ads. So let's hit save. And even though the action says download clipboard report, it is, as the name says, it's only ads. So when I open this up in Excel, you can see that it's got all the fields that I had configured to see. Okay, so if you want to turn those on and off, that will be reflected in this report. Again, it's only ads. And so if I switch back to my browser and I then go to editorials, you'll see that actually there's a separate set of metadata available for editorials. Again, there's that disclosure triangle there. Click that, and here we can turn the things on and off that we don't need. And we can reorder those as well. And you'll see that the clipboard just redrew in order to take that into account. And now if I download my clipboard report, it will say Clipboard Stories, so editorial only. I'll save that to my machine. And again, that opens up right in Excel. And there we are. We've got our information from the stories. So it's a quick way to do kind of an ad hoc report. If you need to quickly sort that information, need to process it in some other way outside of Virtual Publisher, it's there and easily available to you. Okay, let's talk about filters. I'm going to move my clipboard back to the right, and let's take a look at our ads. And you'll see that when you do have the Ads tab selected, there's a Filters Select menu. Okay? that does not appear in the editorials view. You can, of course, do a quick search here by typing anything from any of the metadata in the table will appear there in a search. But if I look at our ads and I look at the filters available, you can drill down on just the things that you're looking for. You can exclude things that maybe you're not interested in. Of course, when you have a very large plan, you're dealing with a lot of full page ads, but partial ads. That ads list can get very large and very cumbersome. So this is a way for you to just focus on the things that you're interested in. So the default view here is to usually is to show you just the unplaced things in the plan. So just to demonstrate that, let me drag over an ad, and you'll see that it disappears out of the clipboard. And that's kind of how most people think of that working, that you've dragged it from one spot to another, therefore it disappears from the source where you're dragging it from. Makes sense, and that's how most applications work. However, if you are thinking of the clipboard as the total picture of all the ads, which is a nice, it's a nice list of what's actually in there, then you can turn that on and you'll see that it pops there back into the clipboard view. And that can be turned on and off as you wish. So again, typically the way most people think of it, that's usually off. Now, the other thing is that you can drill down on the types of ads that you're looking for. So I have a 2-page spread here, this Chanel ad, and if you look at it, it actually is it's an ad that was uploaded by the advertiser user. Therefore, it's considered materials without a reservation. I didn't pre-plan the ad. The advertiser came in to send my ad, uploaded it, and there it is. It's available to me in Virtual Publisher because they uploaded it to our issue. But for some reason, maybe I don't want to see those types of ads. The other thing that you can do is you can show canceled ads. You can show materials with reservations. So I'm going to drag this over back into the thing, and you can see that ad disappeared. It doesn't appear in the clipboard. If I turn materials with reservations back on, it will appear, and that's because that started out its life as a reservation. It looked like this, and then the advertiser came in and they added materials to it. Okay, or it could be an ad that you've merged as a publisher. The publisher made the reservation, but the advertiser uploaded materials separately from that, and then you merge them together. So that's another classification. Excuse me. So all of those things will let you drill down and just focus on just the things that you're looking for. Also, keep in mind, though, that there is this search here. If you remember a headline, an advertising company name, a folio, any of those things, the product category, any of those things that you see in this table, you can very, very quickly filter those down. And you can see that I've got an advertiser that has water in the name and one that's product. So the quick search is a great, great tool for that sort of thing. Okay, I think that's it for clipboard management. It's very straightforward, but it's quite powerful, and there's some things that you might not have played with there. So a lot of people don't think about pinning it to the bottom, and depending on your workflow and how dependent you are on this information for knowing how and where to place things, that really might be the best optimal place for you to see the clipboard. Okay, let's move on to managing our pages, the number of pages, adding and removing things. So let's just dive right into that. Let's talk about shifting the pages. So let's start off by let's just flesh out this plan a little bit more. So I will drag in an add, and that will reflow that story. And let's maybe place an add here, and let's bring in at least one or two more stories. Okay, and there we go. We've got a plan that is now completely planned. Okay, so every slot is full here. Okay, let's look at shifting a page. So you can click this little gear icon here, and that in itself is a little tip. A lot of people don't explore what's actually there, and there's some shortcuts and some interesting things that can be done right from here. So let's shift pages. It tells me what folio I'm starting at, and I can select a number of pages. And there's this very important option here about increasing the book size or not. So it gives you a warning here, and it tells you that if the option is not checked, things that get shifted may land on the clipboard. So let's do that. Let's shift the book by 2 pages. And you can see that starting on that folio 5, we moved 2 spaces over. Everything shifted, and my cover story, which was split between the first 2 and the last 2 pages, went to the clipboard. And that's because it was going to be affected. We weren't sure what your intention was, so we moved it out to the clipboard, and now you have to decide what you really want to do with that. You might want to shorten the story and position it back. You might want to add some pages to catch the 2 that no longer have a place. But essentially, what we've done is we've just shifted or moved everything over 2 pages. Okay, so that was pretty easy. Let's do the other option there. Let's shift the pages. We'll again start on that folio. We can shift 2 pages, and this time let's increase the book size. Okay, and now that we've added some additional pages, of course, what we've done is we've broken our signatures, right? Because our signatures were set up already. We used auto setup for those, and there are problems with, now we have 2 extra pages. They don't belong to any signature. So we detect that, and we give you that option to review those signatures. Okay, and you can see that I now do have a page 21 and 22, which I did not have before. And again, because I shifted 2 pages over starting at folio 5 or position 5, I now have 2 additional pages, 4, including the 2 that I did earlier. Okay, let's go and look at our plan details here. You can see that my total pages is 22. We started out as 20, which we saw on the plan. And if we switch to signatures, you'll see that we're missing 2 pages. Okay. We've got some blank space right there, and you can see that it's missing that. Okay, so at this point, if we were happy with having shifted those things in the way that we did, we could potentially delete our signatures here and do an auto signature, or we could try and merge some signatures and get those to be correct. Of course, 22 pages is an odd size. It's not really what we want. The other thing that may really get messed up here when we start adding pages, shifting pages, removing signatures, and things like that, is the folio labels may get disturbed. Now, we don't have any in here right now, but let's create a very basic set of typical folio labels. So let's make a signature-based folio label based on our cover signature. Okay, and then let's make another one that is just simply auto-filling all the rest. And we'll start that one on position 3 and give it our first folio number of 1. So very, very common labeling scheme. It really wants us to fix our signatures. Every time it refreshes the plan, it's going to annoy us with that message until we fix it. Okay, so you can see that I've got my CV1, CV2, and I've got my folio labels there. As long as I'm using autofill, the kinds of things we're playing around with here might continue to work, but you'll notice that the signature in my cover here, I've got CV3 and CV3-4. That's right, but I've got a story on there rather than my cover story. I've got like a normal editorial story here. So again, I've kind of shifted things around, and I need to go back and fix some of this stuff. Now, when your plan is still in planning mode, that is, it hasn't been promoted to production, which usually means you've started uploading files, you're happy with your layout, and now you're just trying to get it populated with content. If you're still in that planning mode, there's another way to add pages here, and that is the total pages. Okay, so you can both add or remove. You can adjust your page count here very easily. So let's do that. Let's say that this is 24. It does give you a warning. It says that if some content, again, might be put onto the clipboard. And again, the signatures, well, who knows what we're doing to our signatures, right? We're going to have to go back and check that. But if you look, we now have 20 regular pages, and we have our CV1 through CV4. So we've got 24 total pages, and all I had to do was adjust that number. That number is not editable once you get into production mode. So you have to use, you can use adding pages, or more likely you're going to do what we're going to talk about here in a moment, which is to inject and remove signatures. Okay. Well, while we're here, let's look at another option. Let's start on page 9, let's say, and there's an add pages. Okay, this is essentially the same thing as what we did just now. Okay, but when we added pages in the edit plan details by adjusting our page count, it just puts them at the bottom. When you add pages at a specific place, you can do that, at a specific page and tell it how many you want to add. So we're going to start at position 11. Again, our signatures are messed up, but there's our 4 new pages. And you'll now see that we have 24 normally labeled pages, as well as our 4 cover pages. Okay. So we've just done all kinds of stuff with our signatures. So let's go back and review what our signatures are looking like right now. You can see that we're missing a bunch. We're missing at least 4 pages there. Our signatures don't really make any sense at this point. So let's remove those. And you can see that all those signatures are gone. Now, signatures are really, they're metadata. They're a layer that sits on top of your plan and it groups together the pages based on your printing requirements. Removing the signatures in that way, it doesn't affect the pages themselves. It doesn't affect the content that might be placed. It doesn't affect the stories and the ads and those types of things. It only affects that layer that sits on top that says, this is how the printing breakdown, the printing process is going to work with these pages on the plan. Well, I'm going to auto-signature this, and I'll just accept the defaults here for 4-page signatures. Again, this is not the most realistic example, but you can adjust those numbers as well. So now I've got an even number of 4-page signatures, and that looks great. You know, that's perfect. It's back to a working normal configuration. Okay. Well, let's say that you have decided that you're actually going to remove a signature. Okay? And that is pretty easy to do. Okay, and let's say that we're going to do that up here. And you can see that it's not in that gear icon, it's in the signature one. And that actually is a tip as well, because a lot of people don't realize that you can click that and get some information and some actions here. So you can add an insert at that signature start or stop, and you can edit the signature. So that will take you right to the plan details. But what we're talking about here is removing the signature. Now, you can see that in the course of that signature, we have some content that is placed. Okay. Well, let's remove the signature. It will tell you, it gives you the warning that it will not be removed, but it will go to the clipboard. Okay, and it will try its best to figure out our labels and the sections and all of that. It gives you a preview of what the book size is going to be. So let's remove that. Now you'll see that it doesn't automatically rename the signatures. We went from SIG 3 to SIG 5. Okay, it did reduce our count. Okay, and our content, remember that IKEA ad, it went right there onto the clipboard. If we go to our edit plan details and go to signatures, you'll see there's nothing missing there. We accounted for all of our pages still, but we no longer have the same number of signatures, and the names go there according to what they were before. Now, we do have the ability to rename the signatures. So if we wanted, we could select those and rename. Oh. I should have only selected one. So, or of course you can manually adjust those signatures as well. So that's how you remove it, and just keep in mind it doesn't know what you intended to do with the content, so it simply places it on the clipboard for you. All right, well, let's say that we've changed our mind and we want to add more content to this plan, more pages. And so the reverse of that is inject signature. We can leave this blank to auto name it. And this time, let's say we're going to create an 8-page signature. We are going to create 8 pages, and we then have an option for what to do with the content. We can leave the content that might be affected by this at the current position, or we can create blank pages for these 8 new pages and move whatever content we bump into forward. Okay, so we've kind of seen with shifting pages how that works when things just get moved, and that's what really happens there in that first option, rather than doing an arbitrary number of pages that we're going to shift or add. We're doing it based on a pre-configured number of pages, which is all a signature really is. So let's try leaving the content at the current position. You can see that we had this story 2 here. Okay, now it took the next available name, which was SIG 7, and it created, as you can see, from here to here, 8 pages, but it left my story 2 and story 3 in place at those positions. So it's kind of a neat way to add pages and then also decide how you want the things that are placed there already, how you want those handled. So it's pretty easy to understand once you go through and you play with it and you take a plan that you're not concerned about and just go through these various options. It all comes down to realizing that signatures are things that can be made and remade without affecting the important stuff, the content that is, that you've spent time creating ad reservations, uploading materials, creating stories. That just is a layer that sits on top and is flexible and can be moved around and changed and deleted and recreated, and it's no problem. But in those special cases, there's ways that you can think of deleting groups of pages simply based on the fact that it's a 4-page signature, it's an 8-page signature. It's kind of a shortcut for how to delete that content or add content to pages. Okay, so that is what I wanted to show you. I hope that it helps you get a better sense of how this all works together and what might be the best option in the various situations when you need to adjust your page counts. So if you have any questions, we can take those now. And there's one question that has come up, and that is, once you've gone through and you've done all these things with signatures and you've added your pages, are your folio labels going to stay intact? And the answer is it depends. It really depends on your setup. So if we come back and look at what these page numbers look like now, you can see that I've got a CV1, CV2, and then starting at position 3, I've got a folio 1, folio 2, up to 28. Okay, and when we first started with this, I believe when we first created this, it only went up to 20. And then we bump into our CV3 and CV4 for our cover. And that's because I created, essentially the most basic folio label setup that we see, most commonly used. And that is, that's simply a signature-based cover folio and then an autofill for all the remaining slots. So if you have that type of system, you can play with signatures, adding pages, to your heart's content. And at the end of it, those labels are going to be flexible enough to still be correct and still be what you intended to do. Now, as you know, when you create a folio label, the default is to base it on a signature. So if you've selected a signature that went away, of course, you're going to break that, but also the folio labels that surround those signatures, might also be off. And so really the signature-based folio labels work best for the cover ones, maybe a special signature like that corresponds to a section, but then to use auto label for as much of your publication as you can, and then they'll just adjust as you push and pull and do whatever work you need to do with your page count and your signature setup. All right, any other questions? All right, if not, we will end this session, and I'd invite you to, let us know your feedback. Are these useful, helpful for you? Any comments or suggestions you might have to improve this. And what I would really love is for you to email us at support or your sales representative with any topics that you'd like to see for next month. We try to highlight things that are new or little known features. But if you have something specific you'd like to see, please let us know. We'd be delighted to incorporate that into next month's agenda. So thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.